Good morning and welcome to Real Estate Economics weekly webinar series. Real Estate Economics is a leading provider of residential market consulting information and online research tools. Each week at this time, we provide a webinar covering a variety of topics. Some weeks we'll cover the nation, some weeks it's a particular state, and quite frequently we will dig into a specific region or MSA. This week we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to show a lot value analysis and product identification for land acquisition. In this particular webinar we'll show how to use just a couple of our internet-based tools to drive land residuals and product identification in a particular market area. Please check our website www.realestateeconomics.com for our webinar schedule. Next week at this time, I'll be presenting Fresno, California, where we'll do a little bit of in-depth analysis on market conditions in that part of California. As I mentioned, today's analysis will quickly review Moreno Valley, go through the market conditions on the ground there for new homes and resale homes, and out of that, drive some house product straight through to a land residual, which you could quickly and effectively use to make at least a first screening or a draft estimate of residual lot values. This is our housing transactions report map. This is a product that's available to anyone. You don't need to necessarily subscribe or buy discs or get books, any of that sort of thing. It's available on the internet at our website. You can pick your own county, city, drill down into a zip code or even a specific neighborhood if you so desire. As it pertains to today's webinar, Moreno Valley is a fairly large market area. It's about 60 miles east of Los Angeles and has a large freight airport. The 215 corridor that you can see here has an abundant industrial job base, and the central Riverside and San Bernardino County areas are just to the west. So the job base is fairly robust. Of course, there's economic weakness and some unemployment presently, but over time it's growing and is well tied into international freight and distribution. What we'd like to look at when we analyze any market area is there sufficient sales volume? And you can see in this particular market for a 4-month period for 2010, 2009, and 2008, there's more than 2,000 sales in a 4-month period here, year over year. If you go down, most of the market activity presently is in resales. That's owner-to-owner activity, where we had 820 sales in the past 4 months. That's a category that would include short sales. Coming down a little bit farther, new home market share is very, very low, 2.7% presently, 1.5% last year. This on its own tells us that there's probably good opportunities for new homes at price ranges and sizes which we'll identify during the course of this webinar. Foreclosures are pretty robust here. Numbers are big. A lot of homes are going back to lenders. Foreclosure sales were much higher a year ago and have been trending a little bit lower in response to higher short sale activity. As you can see in the bottom numbers, this is predominantly a single-family market. Condominiums are relatively few, and prices have really dropped to the point in this area that most buyers are going to prefer detached programs. Let's look at what sort of effective price ranges are here. You can see overall the averages have come down dramatically in this particular area, 39.4% decline from 2 years ago to a year ago, and a little bit of a rebound here, about 11% in the past year. That's not yet manifest itself in conventional resales and in several of the categories. The previous graph, the previous slide, we showed that transaction volume was down year over year. That suggests to us that there's probably not a trough in place in prices in this market area, but we believe that the deceleration in prices is slowing here, and there are opportunities to build homes in the right price ranges as we'll present during the course of this webinar today. You can see the active value ratios and the direction that those have been taking. Here's another way we could look at effective price ranges here. You can see 3-year analysis 2 years ago shown in yellow, 1 year ago in pink, and the current period in blue. 2 years ago and a year ago, the sales volume really migrated into the lower price points, whereas we had seen literally no volume under 100,000 2 years ago. It spiked to over 550 sales a year ago and has now tapered off. So we had a little bit more of a rebound in 2010 prices compared to 2009. We think that short sellers have been active and investors have been culling this market for good rental opportunities. So the prices have gotten to the point where some of the price strength, or there's a plateau, if you will. So we've seen some recovery in price. If you look at the 150,000 to 200,000 price category, the numbers look pretty good. The market seems to be comfortable in that range with a little bit of activity higher and quite a bit of activity in the 100 to 150 range. Here's another way we look out of our housing transactions report at where are the viable price points. We can see housing transactions distribution year over year, again covering the period January to April 10th. 2 years ago, shown in blue, I've highlighted every price category with more than 4% market share. So you can see nothing really under 150. Market starts to peak at about 350 and really lose volume over 375. This is a market that several years ago was driven by larger homes that generated higher residual values. Those are obviously no longer viable, and the market has condensed itself back into the lowest possible price points. Although if you compare a year ago to today, there's been quite a drop-off in the under $100,000 price category, and we've seen a little bit of migration back up the price food chain, if you will, into 175, 200, 200 to 225. Again, recognize these are resale prices by and large, so we would expect that in formulating a new home sales program, we could achieve higher price points. So what do we think so far? We've just taken a cursory look at the housing transaction report, and I think we can recognize a few things. One is the volume is high enough that there is activity in this market. If you look at more than 2,000 sales on a 4-month period, that would give us an annual run rate of about 6,000. There ought to be some new home opportunities there. New home market share is very low. Sales volume is migrating out of foreclosures into short sales, and the loss in transaction volume year over year suggests to me that we don't have a completed price trough in this market. So the home program that we build in our land residual really needs to take that into account. Past prices, as you can see, the 2000 prices were really driven by a legacy product, I call them. It's executive homes on large lots with high-spec packages that could only be afforded based on local incomes by subprime loans, and some disconnect between household income and the kind or size of a loan that you could generate. Simply not possible based on local incomes to have the number of sales in the upper price points that we had several years ago. And last, new home prices enjoy a sizable price premium. We'll talk to this quite a bit during the course of the webinar. How big is that premium? What's creating that? Where buyers are going to prefer to be given the option between an existing home and a new home. That's part 1 of 3. So if you want to see the conclusion, there are 3 parts, so make sure that you view all 3 parts.